Again, people could co-locate there, the packs, call up to their exchange. You could take your cabinet of equipment, a few servers, get a couple 15 amp circuits per cabinet, maybe 1.5 kilowatts per cabinet. Very little need for cooling per se. You'd have 1 or 2 Libras in a room this size. That's all you needed. Density, Moore's law, more usage. Everything began to compound itself because people had invested money in these data centers, in these buildings, and then they, as per the slideshow before this one, started to augment them, add to this. You could see vast waste of space that people had to now pay for in large swaths in the carrier hotels. Lower density of floor loading, different things morphed in the data center world that challenged the space that was built. In the mid-90s, you start to see companies like Exodus, other huge providers that started to build, to design, to offer, up to 100 watts a foot and 100 pounds. There are physical constraints that all data centers have. Doesn't matter when you build them or where you build them. They're going to be overcome by certain things. Modular data centers, roll up the trailer, put them in, has become incredibly popular for people, especially when they have a brick and mortar data center in one part of the country and they want disaster recovery somewhere else. And that disaster recovery may move somewhere else at any given time, so they focus on something that's easy. And it is easy to plug 1,000 servers into a modular data center, roll it up, hook to a generator and a power grid that's offered by a landlord. There's a number of landlords, including this one, that are planning on doing this over in Eastern Washington where power is quite cheap. So they're going to have a trailer park for people who want to do this, to offer a service. A lot of people are looking at it. It's a great idea. What's controlling the data center market in the future of the data centers that we see as a co-location provider, we don't operate a data center like Microsoft operates a data center, or Amazon operates a data center, where they have a homogeneous design and thousands and thousands and thousands of servers that sit in row after row after row. We have people that come to us that buy a cabinet, a cage, somewhere in between. They all have different ideas. They all love ASHRAE, they hate it. Most of our customers that demand that we keep our PUE at a certain level and ask for air temperature, intake air temperature to be no more than 71 degrees. Because they're not going to buy off in the utility use of a server being thrown away every 14 months because it burns up. These are people that are from Bill and I's Colo to Opera Software, JP Morgan. We have customers that across the breadth, but one thing in common as enterprise users of data center space, they have specific requirements, and we have to solve to the least common denominator of all of them. So we don't have the luxury and option of saying to somebody, oh yeah, well, Intel wrote a paper, it could be 102 degrees, have a great time, we'll put you over here. It doesn't work well in a raised floor data center environment. One of the things we've seen, obviously, is power and cooling. How do you effectively capture power and cooling? I've been in this business for quite a while, and it has gone from the 15 amps per cabinet and to now we have customers downstairs. They're row after row of racks at 16 kW to 20 kW a drop per rack. And it just keeps going up. People show up with these 96 servers per module, 4 per cabinet. You just look at them and go, wow, that's great. 260, 200 amp, 3-phase circuits each, and it's constant draw and all. The reason being, and everybody has one of the biggest reasons, mobile phones. Mobile phones are very unique. They're driving data at a very, very rapid rate. I have an iPhone, I have a BlackBerry as well. At the end of 2010, Apple sold 66 million iPhones. On these iPhones, they reported that they have 6.5 billion downloads and 260,000 apps, both free and for sale. Every time they create a new app, another download, it's more data. I have data here in my data center. Everybody else in this business has data, runs through their data centers. You may sell data, you may have content. Every single one of these devices goes up. There are, in January 2011, there are 940 million users that have pulled 804 million megabytes of data, and that's just one of our customers. They capture 110 million users. Their compound annual growth rate is 157%. 3 years ago, they had 11 million people. Now they have 110 million. That's Opera software, Opera Mini. Is growing at an exponential rate, and they just keep adding more. So the future of the data center is data. How much of it do you capture where? A lot of it is virtualized. A lot of it will be in the cloud. A lot of it will be in trailers in Keokuk, Iowa, as long as they have inexpensive energy. A lot of it's going to be in data centers, brick and mortar data centers around the world, because it's efficient. Many companies now that deploy in multiple markets like working with data center operators because they can carve out exactly what they want, when they want it, and where. And they all tend to back up in other data centers, so you have this follow the sun strategy, especially with content users and providers. The difficulty with the data centers is keeping up with what the customer needs. So when you have a brick and mortar facility such as the one we have here, how far can you modify it? How quickly can you change it? How nimble can you be? And that becomes problematic. And there is an end. You can't, physics provides us with certain axioms of truth. With a finite amount of horsepower and altitude and run rate, you can make anything fly. Yet at what cost? It becomes very inefficient at some cost. So taking the best of breed, best of class at a specific period of time, there is an end to that, where you then have to go back and say, look, you've fulfilled your obligation to your company and your customer at this level, because we've had people come through here with exotic solutions of wanting 50 kW a cabinet. And I just roll my eyes and say, God bless you, I can't do it. I mean, it makes no sense economically for a provider like this. Does not mean that a data center somewhere can't do it. There's one of our customers has containerized a solution in Iceland. And their cooling apparatus that sits on top of their container is designed for and by nuclear physicists for nuclear power plants. And it takes a hot air, cold air mix, and then the hotter the air that goes through it, the more efficient it becomes. Money is no object to them for that solution. They love it. Money is an object to solution for most data center providers in colocation. And it doesn't matter which one, because you can only solve for X and expect to get an ROI, whether that's private money, equity, debt, or publicly traded. We have to meet the high end of the middle to be successful. And the exotics, the 50 kilowatts per cabinet, will be met by a data center provider, will cost a lot of money, but it probably won't happen here. The need that we see continually is density. People don't want to waste space and yet understand that there's only so much cooling you can put into a specific area. We're constrained by the law of physics, as all things, and that the solutions are simple and sometimes complex and very expensive, and timing is everything. The actual utilization of the facilities can be maximized with a lot of forethought and engineering, because you know when you're going to begin to run out, and if you can see that 9 months down the road, you'll always have plenty of time, because there's some great products out there, and Schneider sells some, and we use some of those. And modular units that you can actually apply towards your demand as you start going up the food chain. It's interesting, that Don had said about people in PUEs, and I hear a lot of this claim that, we have a 0.15 PUE, and I went to a facility in Northern California that had yet to be built. And they were claiming there's a wonderful PUE, and I said, wow, interesting, there's no data center? Well, we've got these plans of doing this, it's going to be wonderful when we get to PUE. I said, well, you do understand there's an effective curve that you have to hit before you actually have a finite amount of customers and draw, and the efficiencies, oh, well, yeah, forget that, but we're going to charge you, and I said, well, you're going to charge us if we take base on the PUE now? Oh, no, you pay for actual usage plus. So it is an interesting argument, the same thing with people where you read a lot of white papers, 104, and I can't cite them as well as you, but free air cooling. I've been to a number of facilities that have free air cooling, and they're great facilities once they get to load, but you also find in facilities that do free air cooling without any type of economizer, when it's humid out, the walls get a little sticky and run a lot, because there's no heat to reject the humidity. So there's problems with all solutions. It's just how nimble is your provider, how smart are they, or who do they employ to solve your solutions, and how quickly can you get it done. And then sometimes, like Nancy Reagan used to say, you just have to say no. It's just not going to happen here, because it will cost you, especially like our data center downstairs, which is a raised floor environment. It's a full floor, and then we have half the floor the second. It's with raised floor and a plenum, and it's not separate suites. We can't change the dynamic of our common denominator for one or two customers. So when we have an offering here, and when we have an offering in the future, and the future for our data center is being able to meet the high end of the middle of enterprise customers that need and want data centers run by people that run it, and they're in that weird stage where they're not going to need 50,000 square feet from us because we don't offer that, and yet they still need a data center in a geographic location. So that's our future, and well into, as far as I can see down the road, there's a need for these types of data centers as long as they're nimble and reactive to customer need. This is the standard older model of a data center. Is we have one flavor, vanilla. This is it. This is what you get. For all of you that buy data center product, and you've run across that in the past, and everybody has, that's becoming the exception and not the rule. You know, the rule is now is you work with your provider, they give you a solution, does it fit economically, and can they get it done? So that's more of the model here. So again, as a simple case study of one customer, you know, 804 million megabytes of data for 94 million customers, and they're growing at 157% a year, and that's just one browser operator for mobile phones. And mobile phones, by the way, are being consumed at 110 million units a year. In the emerging markets, where legacy architecture, legacy development, and data, as an example, in the country of Brunei, is the largest single IP user on a mobile phone in the world, because they can access foreign national companies that deliver data, and it's not censored by their government. 2,705 pages a month in the average unit in Brunei, and it all leaves the country. It's content that goes to your companies. It comes and goes. So there's the growth of the data center in one realm, and you can talk about banking and everything else, but that's what we see. So my belief is, in conclusion, is that the data centers of today, including modular units that would then back up the brick and mortars, is growing exponentially. We can talk about Gartner and anybody else's report, which is generally, in my view, and please treat this with the contempt it so richly deserves, it's dated, and it's only information that you actually feed to the company as they regurgitate back to us, but they will say that demand far outstrips supply still, as far as they can see. So, any questions? Okay. I am.
Okay.